I am live with Mark Victor Hansen and his amazing wife, Crystal Dwyer Hansen. And I have so here's what's going on. I am interviewing Mark and Crystal on Amazon. Mark and Crystal, are you guys excited?
We're so excited.
We're beyond excited, thankful, and we look forward to talking to every one of you at length about our brand new book, Ask, the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. Oh, you've got one too.
Twins.
I have one too.
All right.
So I want to talk about the book and what it was. Mark, we'll start with you. We'll save the best for last. so we'll start with Mark first. Mark, how many books have you written now?
318. By the end of the year, we'll have published 318. There's a couple at the publisher now that are coming out, like How to Think Bigger Than You Ever Thought You Could Think and Speed Write Your Autobiography. And just, it has really been wonderful because the publishers' book sales are at an all-time high because of COVID confinement. People are at home and are going, well, I want to read something. And then, they say, well, look, Mark sold 500 million books. So I loved all of his old books. Maybe he's even better now. And what we believe is that you get better and more refined. In sports, You get kicked out at 29 to 49. But in reading and thinking, you get deeper, richer, more mellow, more wise, and hopefully more articulate over time.
I think that you're 1,000% correct. I've noticed that I've gone back and read books that I read 20 years ago. I read them today and they have a completely different meaning to me, like completely different. So you're known best as being the co-creator of the entire Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books and games and all kinds of stuff. I don't even know what everything you guys created, but it was more than just books. I know that, but talk a little bit, because you're the #1 best-selling author in the world as a result of that. What's that feel like?
It's wonderful. And that's the whole point that we're teaching in this thing, Dreams to Your Destiny. Everyone's got a destiny and you got to go fulfill it. And my destiny, when I went bankrupt in 1974, I said, well, what do I really want to do? And we say, you got to ask yourself, others, and then God. And I kept saying, God, tell me what I'm supposed to do. And the question, this is the first miracle. God said, what do you want to do? And I went, whoa. And I said, I want to be a professional speaker. And he said, well, what would you do? I said, well, I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life transformative difference. Miracle number 1. I go to my 3 roommates. I'm living in Hicksville, Long Island, New York. And I say, guys, any of you know somebody about my age, young, that's a professional speaker, not a lawyer, doctor, famous person, Broadway star, or celebrity? And I said, yeah, this kid's a few years older than you out in Hauppauge talking at 9. And by the way, here's my ticket. You go use my ticket to get in. Well, that was miracle number 2. Miracle number 3, this kid wows the audience, mesmerized them for 3 hours. I go up to him and I ask, I said, Chip Collins, will you teach me how to do it? He said, you stay out of real estate. I own this market and I'll teach you how to do it in life insurance. Well, I didn't own any. I didn't know what a premium was. I knew nothing. And in the first 3 years, only Tony Robbins, I did 1,000 talks a year because I had nothing else to do except sell talk, give talk. And people keep saying, do you have it in a book? And I did a book called Stand Up, Speak Out and Win. We sold 20,000 copies, Ken, to little itty bitty audiences of 6, 10, or 12. And why that's important, everybody, is you got to start small and grow tall, right? The acorn becomes an oak tree. And that started my book writing. And my goal is still an enormous goal. I want to sell 1 billion. And I see why we got turned down by 144 publishers in New York and around the world is because I said I was going to sell 1 billion. And they went, nobody can sell 1 billion. This guy's really a whack job. Well, I'm halfway to goal, and as you know, I'm going to be 127 with options for renewal. So I'm going to hit my goal, especially seeing as I got the wisest, brightest, most beautiful, wonderful wife who is carrying the torch with me.
You guys you've become really good friends of mine, which just is mind blowing for me. But I think that you might be the cutest couple in the world too. So,
thanks. we have fun.
I think that you guys released this book in what month was it? It was in 2020.
April
28th of 2020. Shutdowns just happened. It was crazy. And we had a meeting with our publisher, and we're like, what do we do? Because every book was getting pushed back to the fall. Yeah. And nobody knew. There was so much uncertainty. And we all decided in that meeting, you know what, you guys, let's just go forward with this. I mean, we had to cancel. We had huge events canceled that were these big companies, insurance companies, were going to buy like thousands of books, these big kickoff events, and all of that got canceled like within a span of 2 or 3 weeks. So we're just like, what do we, but we decided that day on the phone, Ken, that this was a message people probably needed right now more than ever. And so it wasn't just about the sales or having the best launch. It was about like just getting this message out there to people when they needed it. Yep. And as it turned out, we started getting letters back that have been so heartwarming because people did need this. It provided a pathway for people to do what they needed to do the most, which was go inside and start asking those questions that lead you to the answers, the solutions, the breakthroughs that we all needed, especially at that time, never more than at that time.
I think that, the title of this book is so simple. It really is. I'm getting that feedback again. But the
title is profoundly simple and simply profound. And genius is the ability to take something obtuse, complex, and impossible to understand and make it simple. In graduate school, my teacher, Bucky Fuller, said, and that's exactly what he learned from Einstein and what I share in this book with Crystal, because everyone's heard ask and you shall receive, Ken, but no one ever had the technology, the insight, the wisdom, and the principles distilled so you can make it practical in your life, so you can have the rubber hit the road, so to speak, and you can travel forward knowing how to ask effectively and correctly to get all the results, to get everything in life you want by learning how to ask.
And that, I think, is the most important thing that people need to know, that although the title of the book, and by the way, for everybody watching on Amazon, just right below the video, the book is right there. Just click on the book and go over and buy a few copies of it to give out to friends and clients. And there is nothing like Pam Aubrey is on. She says, this book is so powerful. Sylvia is on and she says, just started reading this book 3 days ago. She's very excited to meet you guys. Randall Voss, love this interview. Start small and grow tall. That's awesome. And so, Mark and Crystal, the book title is, and this was my point. It's simple, but you guys, just the story of Michaela is so powerful. And Crystal, I know that is your brainchild. You came up with that. Talk a little bit about, number one, why you came up with the story of Michaela, and number two, how you feel like it can impact other people that are going to read this book.
Right. No, it's amazing because Mark and I thought we love stories, as you know, because stories are just a way. Stories are patterns. When we read a story, there are always patterns inside the story, and human beings learn in patterns. And so that's how we learn very quickly from other people's experiences, or just, even a fable. So we thought it would be really fun to kick the book off with a fable. And we thought about doing an animal. And then I said to Mark one day, why don't we just do it about a young woman? And so we thought, we'd start writing it and kind of pass it back and forth like we do sometimes. And I started writing it, and it was like the most fun writing experience I've ever had. It just started flowing out of me. And it's almost like, it sounds strange, but it was like I was just sort of channeling this story of this girl, Michaela, who existed somewhere, right? It was really a cool experience. But Michaela, I wrote it. It's really every woman and every man's journey, because Michaela starts off, she has lost absolutely everything. She's her parents died one after the other. The bill collectors took her home because of the medical bills. She's living in like a grove of trees, and it takes place in the time of kings and queens.
And she's working in a rock quarry.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's basically, kind of an indentured servant working in a rock quarry. So her every day is about moving heavy rocks from one place to another. There's no joy in her life, right? And so I think that's what life feels like sometimes to many of us when we go through things. And the thing about life is we're all going to go through these problems. We are going to go through, the setbacks, the hopelessness, the despair. And that's where Michaela's at. And so then she falls into this exhausted sleep one night, and she has this dream, and this being comes to her in the dream and takes her on this journey. I'm not going to give it all away. But essentially, he gives her this message, and the message is all about asking, how she needs to learn to ask and never stop. And then when she wakes up, she knows something's already changed inside. She knows she's connected to something that she wasn't aware of before, but she's not even sure exactly what, but there's just a little spark of life that gets lit inside of her. And then when she starts to remember the words that the being told her every day, her life just starts to expand out. She starts connecting with people. She starts wondering about people. She starts feeling happy because of those connections. She starts coming up with answers. It's amazing. By the end of Michaela's story, she is a completely different person living a completely different life. And that's what we're saying to people about the book Ask. For you to experience the total, ultimate unfoldment of your own life, you must learn to ask. You must learn to ask yourself, others, and God, so that journey can unfold for you. And I believe, Mark and I both believe, that we each have an ultimate journey. I mean, we can take a lot of pathways in this life. We can just kind of get by. We can just kind of exist. We can just kind of do our thing every day. But if we want that ultimate unfoldment of our lives, then we really need to consider taking that asking journey, because to get that to happen, you really need to become a master asker, because that is what will deliver all the answers to you, all the opportunities, all the connections to other people.
First, a couple of things I want to say. Number one, Sylvia says, I was so into the story of Michaela, it felt like you were telling my story. I could hear your voice. I could hear your voice in my mind without knowing you. Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. And I think people really need to understand, Mark and Crystal, you weren't always the best-selling author of all time, Mark, and Crystal. I'm sure both of you have always been beautiful and had a moral compass pointing north, but you still had massive challenges in life, and you weren't always well-to-do. We'll just say that. Crystal, you've told the story about, was it you were standing in line with food stamps or something, like, I forget, was it food stamps at some point?
Yeah. Yes.
Nobody would ever believe that. Like, it's amazing.
It's true, Ken. I mean, we all do this. We look at people who are millionaires or have success or whatever. We're like, gosh, I wish my life could be like that. It's been so easy. My life's so hard. I wish I had an easier life like they do. And that's what we want to tell people here today. And we wanted people to know in the book, like, our life has not always been, life never is this straight, easy, narrow path, right? And so one of my most challenging times was when I was very young. I was one of those kids who thought high school was easy and boring. And so I accelerated my curriculum and I graduated myself at age 16 and married my boyfriend, who was 5 years older, which turned out to be not a great life plan, because 2.5 years later, I'm in a new city by myself with no family, no friends, no idea how I'm going to support myself, and didn't know what to do. So I applied for food stamps.
And divorced.
Oh, of course, I was divorced. So I'm standing in line that day with my food stamps, and I literally am getting ready to turn my food stamps over for the food and diapers. And I had this epiphany that was so profound. I will never forget it. And I know you've all probably experienced those times in your lives. There's just those moments. And all of a sudden, this question came into my mind, like, how did I get here? Followed by another question that was like, are you doing everything you can to get out of this, or are you taking the easy way out, basically? And I felt like a spotlight was on me, like, oh no, busted, because I knew that I wasn't doing the best I could. And I didn't even know what that was. But I just knew, like, somewhere inside there was something more inside of me. This wasn't me. Like, I could do something better than this. So I had this instant epiphany. That question just triggered this complete pivot inside of me. And honestly, Ken, as I was as I handed those food stamps over to the cashier, I had this sort of conviction, this fierce conviction. I probably looked a little fierce to the cashier, and I'm like, this will not be my future. I didn't say it to her, but I
wanted
was saying
to, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
There was so much fierceness inside of me. And I just like handed him over, and I went back to my apartment, my little apartment where I was getting eviction notices every month. And I was like, I don't have any answers, but I realized I have questions. We always have questions. When we don't have the answers, we always have questions. That's why this book is so important. Follow the questions. We give you so many in there. So I just started asking, myself, like, who would hire me? What are my skills? How can I make money tomorrow? When I started asking those questions, I remembered hearing on the radio, like Kelly Services, temporary service agencies. Yeah. You can earn money tomorrow. And I was like, I'm going to call them. I called, I filled out the paperwork. In a few days, I'm like, they call you, they give you, do you want to do this job, that job? You can say yes or no. And all of a sudden I'm filling in at attorneys' offices, or working at conventions, doing sales for them, and just setting up booths and malls, doing all these things. And I started learning so much about myself. I was like, I really love small business. Like, I was fascinated by these business owners who just started a business. Like, wow. And, I like sales. And I decided at that point to put myself through real estate school. So I saved enough money. Oh, in the meantime, someone had approached me and said, you should be a model. You should. So I'm like, what do I have to lose? I'll just go ask. I literally just walked into the biggest agency. I was so naive. In some ways, it's good to be naive. I just asked them if they would sign me. So I stumbled through some lines. It was a talent agency, like reading lines. And then I had to kind of stumble down the runway and act like I knew what I was doing. Fortunately, they signed me. And miraculously, I ended up doing a couple television commercials that went national. So literally, Ken, here's the moral of the story. A year and a half, a little more than a year and a half from that time that I'm standing in line, handing over my food stamps, I'm now a licensed realtor working for the biggest home builder in our valley. I became the number one realtor, and I'm getting these residual income checks, and I got enough residual income that I had to join Screen Actors Guild. Once you make enough money, they make you join. It's like the greatest union because you get the best insurance benefits. And so suddenly my little boy and I have like the best insurance available on the planet.
Wow.
And I would think back to that time where, I think back, it makes me gulp. It makes me emotional because I didn't know. I would cry every night. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And just, I'm so thankful for the power of the question that came to my mind, and that you have to be courageous enough to answer yourself honestly. Like, are you doing the best you can? I mean, sometimes you need to parent yourself and be a little tough on yourself, Don't take the easy way out because you're better than that. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Wow. Such a powerful story. It really is. And Mark, you've been through the ringer yourself multiple times. I know you've had, you talk about filing bankruptcy, and what year was it? 1970 something?
1973, 74. It doesn't happen instantly, but when I was building spherical buildings out of triangles. I'd built the Wall Street Racquet Club, Botanical Gardens, aviaries, homes, and all of a sudden we had an oil embargo, and I couldn't get any product. $40,000 a month was a lot of product to buy, and I couldn't get any. And it was my worst experience. I had to check a book at the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. I was broke. And matter of fact, I'm on the steps of the Eastern Court System in Long Island, New York, and the an ambulance chasing attorney comes up to me and says, "Hey, buddy, for $300, I'll take you bankrupt." I said, "Pal, if I had $300, I wouldn't be going bankrupt." But that's what got me into, feeling terrible, trash. And for a while, I was unloading. Now, I had a double master's degree at that time. I'm unloading toilet paper off a railroad car at $2.14 an hour. I arrive in a white trench coat, patent leather shoes, because I was a businessman. And the guy says, "Look, Bubba, I don't think you're dressed right." I said, "I'm not saying this is not who I am." And so every one of us is hanging on. I know a lot of people, because of COVID, 50 million Americans are unemployed or underemployed or wrongly employed and are hanging on by their fingernails. I'm not making fun of you. All I'm saying is, if you'll read our book, Ask, and if you'll go through the questions with somebody that's important to you, your spouse or spouse equivalent or mastermind partner or business partner, church member partner, what'll happen is it'll open up your whole mind. Because when you ask, what Crystal and I have discovered is you'll have illumination, you have insight, you have breakthrough wisdom, you'll have solutions. And God only gave humans the ability to have an imagination and to be able to ask.
Amazon carries the book. Get 3 copies at Amazon.
That's right. So did you say that they're running the Amazon, there's some kind of a promo with
well, as of last night when we did it, that you buy 2, you get 1 free, or you buy 3 and get 1 free. And it's a great deal. And we're thinking that there are a lot of people out there. Here's what we've discovered. So many people right now are depressed, despondent, disconsolate, upset, freaked out, full of fear. This book, these are rented lips. This book covers the 7 roadblocks to overcoming all that, so you can accomplish all the good you want by going to Amazon and getting the book today. Today.
Pam Aubrey says in the comments, your story is so close to my heart, Crystal. Thank you again for sharing it, because it reminds me of how powerful we really are. And she says this book is a game changer. And I agree. You guys are, sometimes I wonder why you're friends with me.
We love
I'm
you.
like, maybe they just feel sorry for me. They see their old selves in me. I'm kidding. No, I think that your stories are relatable to everybody, because everybody goes through it. Everybody has sat in tears and wondered which way is up. I used to say back 19 years ago when I first got sober, I used to say I couldn't find my rear end with both hands and a flashlight. And a book like this, a book
that
like
is
this,
behind you.
I know, but a book like this could have. And Mark, I was reading your books. I was reading the Aladdin Factor. I remember the Aladdin Factor and how much it impacted me. It impacted me in such a powerful way. This book is just as, if not more powerful than that one. I'm sorry. I'm not dissing on that one, but this is a fantastic book. It is a great book.
Aladdin Factor, we sold 3.6 million, and it was great. And it was a prelude to this. And at a lot of levels, asking has been the journey. At 9 years old, I kept asking my dad if I could have a bicycle. Can I have a bicycle? And I didn't get that he didn't have any money to pay for a bicycle. Now, if you know anything about the expensive bicycles today, like Treks or any of that, I was in a bike store yesterday because we bike every weekend, but they're like $9,000. Well, my dad couldn't afford, he was a baker. When you're selling rolls at 3 to 5 cents a roll back when I was a little kid, long, long ago in the 50s, that is impossible. He couldn't afford it, but it didn't dawn on me that he didn't have the money, because I saw him open the wallet and pull out cash. So I thought, holy cow, this is an endless machine, sort of like what our government thinks. Anyhow, so I finally got to the thing. I finally asked the right question, which is what we're teaching in our book, Ask. Ask the right question. I said, Dad, you teach free enterprise, means the more enterprising you are, the freer you are. Can I have it if I earn it myself? Now, a little kid can't turn around that kind of money, but I'm a good little Boy Scout, and it said, be prepared. And I know all the stuff and the secret handshake and all that good stuff. But I'm reading Boy Scout Life magazine, and in the last page, Ken, it says you can sell greeting cards in consignment. I immediately looked at my Funkin' Wagnalls. It said, that means you don't have to pay for it until after you've sold it. I thought, wow, this is like the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
I get these greeting cards now. The snow is deep in Waukegan, Illinois, outside of Chicago. We're north of Chicago. And I'm trudging through the neighborhood. My mother was a great saleswoman in the front of the bakery, of course. And she said, look, smile at every neighbor and say, look, I'm earning my own bicycle. She never thought I'd get it, but would you like to invest in one box Christmas cards or two? Well, in 1 month, I sold 376 box Christmas cards, and usually my nose was running because it was so cold outside. And they'd say, come in here, we got to blow your nose, kid. And okay, I'll take two. And the neighbors were very kind, and I made enough money. Dad took half of it away and said, this is going to your college fund, which I'm thankful for. When you're a little kid and having your money vaporized and going into a bank, it didn't seem like a good idea. And then I got the bicycle next spring.
Wow. From selling greeting cards.
Yeah.
Oh, can I do one other part to that story?
Yes, you can.
So what you had asked earlier is Chicken Soup is sold $2 billion worth of retail of books and $1 billion worth of licensing. Because one weekend I'm reading both Steven Spielberg and Lucas's, and they said they made $800 million with ET, but $1.5 billion licensing. And I went into licensing and I learned how to do it, and we've done really well at it. But long story very short, same company that I sold for 40 years earlier flies into, back when we lived in California, we now live in Scottsdale, Arizona. They come and meet me and they say, you know, you did well with the greeting cards before. Do you think you could sell them? And long story short, I wrote them and Jack edited them, and we sold 897,000 box Christmas cards a month at Christmas time. And it's amazing that 40 years later, full circle, I get back and become the top part of Gibson greeting cards.
Chicken Soup for the Soul cards.
Yeah, with Gibson. It was just fun.
That's incredible. And I'm sure that all of that is coming down the pipe. I would imagine with Ask in the near to distant future. But
right.
So you guys are what are some other things that you feel like people are going to immediately gain if they sit down and read this book and really study its contents?
Right. I'm so glad you asked that, Ken, because, you know, most people, I'm a transformational life coach, clinical hypnotherapist. It is shocking to me how little time people spend with themselves, okay, asking these questions. And we can't stress enough how important the ask yourself, ask others, and ask God is, because starting with asking yourself, because asking yourself is that reflective journey. Okay. You can't know where you want to go until you know where you are now, and then really probe deeply to find out where you really want to go. So we say there are like 3 critical phases to the ask yourself part, that reflective journey. And the first one is, you know, where am I right now? Where am I with my life? Honestly, truly. And all the little questions that come under that. Because when you start asking questions, more questions are going to come, and it'll start to reveal a lot to you about yourself that you need to look at. You need to understand about yourself. Most people are just running so fast down the road. They're not sitting back and taking the time to really understand what's going on. And if you do this, your life will go so much better. You will start to flow in life instead of fighting with life. And so, you know, where am I now? Do I like what's happening? Is it working? Is there something I'm missing? You know, am I happy with this job? Am I happy in my relationship? All of these things that you need to really examine about yourself, where you are now. And then the second critical phase is, where do I want to be? Again, so few people really take time with themselves. They're afraid to ask that question because we live in this state of undeservedness. Like, we shouldn't ask. Like, I can't think that big. I'll only imagine I can make this much money, not this much money, right? Yeah. Why? You know, God never put any limits on any of us. And the only limits we're putting on from ourselves. We're putting the limits on. So we need to take this asking journey. And Mark and I say, when you get into that second critical phase, where do I want to be? What do I really want in my relationships? What do I really want in my career? Go to the nth degree of your ideal scenario, you know, in this career, you know, and then ask yourself the questions backwards. What am I doing every day in my ideal career? Who are my clients? What services am I providing? How are people responding to those services and products? You know, you need to get that picture, that vision of what you really want. And the only way to get it is by asking those questions of yourself. And you literally can engineer your perfect life backwards. And then the third part of that critical phase of the asking yourself part is, because you'll start to get answers. You'll start to get these illuminations and breakthroughs. Then you need to ask yourself, what are the specific steps I need to take now to get there? And those things will start to come to you. And when they do, that's why we say, we talk about this in the book, write everything down, get an asking journal. As those things come to you, you're going to think of that person. You're going to think of that idea, that plan, write it down, pick up the phone, call the person, take the action. It's coming to you for a reason. People don't understand how connected we are to the entire universe, to God, to the source of everything. So when you start asking, it comes to you. And you also, the studies show that when you start asking yourself a question, your own brain starts to light up in a different way. So suddenly, instead of being stuck, your own brain becomes a better resource to you. Right. That's the magic and the power of asking questions.
What about the people who, and I'm going to put myself in this category, not now, but in the past. I can remember asking God why he hates me so much.
You can't ask the wrong questions. That's for sure.
Right. But, what about the people though that get there, that get stuck in the wrong questions, right? And they're asking, they are in that mindset of, they're constantly asking themselves, how do I get unstuck? How do I get through this? God, why do you hate me? God, why is this going wrong for me? And we know that's the wrong mindset. Those are the wrong questions. But how can this book help somebody shift out of that and into the right questions?
Well, that's why what we did in the book is we said, look, there's 7 roadblocks to asking. And it starts with a sense of unworthiness. When you don't feel worthy, you don't ask the right questions because you're not worthwhile. So, of course, if I'm not worthwhile and I'm not valuable and I'm not important and I'm not special to myself, then I can't be special to God. Then the next one, of course, is naivete. And then you got doubt. And then you got fear. And then you got disconnectedness. And then you got pattern paralysis. And then you got fear, and which I said already. The point is, all those things are with holes, and once you look at them in the mirror and you say, "Ooh, that is me," and then what we do is we give you simple, elemental ways to transcend that and go in higher states of awareness, because it's your awareness that gets you going. It's what Crystal said a second ago: is that God doesn't care whether you make $10, 100,000, a million, or 100 million. All of it is up to you, and there's no shortage. Universe only knows fundamental abundance. We are hiking. We went to a wedding in Boulder, Colorado, and we're hiking in the beautiful Colorado Rockies. And one oak tree spits out 10,000 acorns a year, and it does it for 100 to 300 years. The point is, God only knows fundamental abundance, and yet the world right now is in lack, limitation, shortage. But God, there's no shortage. And God, you're made in the image and likeness of God, according to Genesis 1:26 to 28. If that's true, you got infinite stuff inside. And that's why Crystal and I are saying, look, once you learn to ask yourself, ask others, and ask God, you become a no-limit, fully functioning, self-actualizing, self-realizing person. That's what we're trying to do. We want to be the mirror to help everyone get to their destiny, so they quit saying, God, why do you hate me? Why is the economy so rotten? The economy is the economy. God's not going to change. God's never going to be short anything. God's never going to change principles. Gravity on earth is always you're going to wake up, your foot's going to go down. It's not going to go straight up to the ceiling.
Right. And can I add one thing to that, Ken?
Yes, please.
People realize, I don't think people realize enough that, how scientific scriptures are. I mean, so much of what is said in the Bible is so scientific. So when you look at the words of Jesus, ask and you will receive, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be open. Okay, so you're going to find, what he's essentially saying is you're going to find what you're asking for, or you're going to find what you're seeking. You're going to receive what you're asking for. You're going to receive what you're asking for. You're going to find what you're seeking. Quantum physics teaches the exact same thing. Yep. When scientists observe something, okay, basically whatever their expectation, quantum physics summed up in just a couple of sentences, is essentially whatever the scientists expect to observe is what ends up coming out in the experiment. That is where science meets God. I mean, it's just amazing. And the law, it's the law, so what Jesus was talking about was the law. It's like the law. It's the scientific law. Yeah. You're going to receive what you're asking for. And so the biggest problem we all have is we're not asking to our full potential. We're not asking big enough. We're not, like Mark said, first of all, we need to overcome these roadblocks of insecurity, unworthiness, fear, all these things we put on ourselves just through life. It happens to us. We have defeats, we have rejection, all of these things. And suddenly we're standing there as adults. We're just so scared to ask for anything, and we're ashamed that we don't have all the answers. Those are the things that we help you get over, because you have to get over those things so you can ask for your greatest life and get it.
And when you were standing in line at the store with those food stamps years and years ago, and that generates feelings of unworthiness. It generates feelings of insecurity. Going bankrupt in 1973 or 74, and 2 master's degrees, and you're unloading toilet paper off of a truck or whatever, like that generates those feelings of not being worthy enough to receive the greatness that we're all talking about right now. And that's why it's so important. The whole GIGO thing, right? Garbage in, garbage out. That principle applies with the goodness in, goodness out. You put things like this in your mind, it nourishes your soul, and that reflects out to the world, and that's what comes back to you. And I think that people look, everybody watching right now, click the book below. Even if you already have this book, go get another copy and give it to your number one enemy. Seriously, they need it more than anyone else.
Oh my gosh, what a great idea, Ken. Give it to your number one enemy, because it's that person that you're always struggling with, or, struggling up against, that, and sometimes it's in your own family. Like, you can't get out of this, Yeah. What a great idea. Yeah. I love that idea.
Because it goes to what you said a second ago, Ken. When you transform, the world transforms. Yep. Transformation, as Crystal teaches, is inside out. In other words, the world you're looking at is based on the science of quantum physics, is Heisenberg's indeterminacy, which is the same as what Jesus said, it's done unto you according to your belief. So a quantum physicist looks for particles. He sees particles. The same partner looks for the space in between the particles, sees the space. It's just like this. Do you see the fingers, or do you see the space? It's real simple. And what happens is, we're in this great time. What are you going to ask for? You're going to get. So if you ask yourself, back to my case, how do I go bankrupt? I went bankrupt and I eat peanut butter until my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. My tongue wouldn't even move. I had no money except for peanut butter. And it's laughable now. And all of you that are feeling choked right now and shut down by the world, you will be able to laugh at this if you read the book, learn the principles, learn the strategies, learn the techniques, break through and go to higher heights. And we want to hear from you. We look forward to hearing your story. And we are out back talking around the world again. And if you'll look at our, you'll find us somewhere, or you can watch us somewhere, right?
Right here on Amazon.
Very
like
well
right now,
played,
we're going to keep
Mark.
doing this with you live.
Hey, I wanna read some of the comments. You guys can't see. Randall Voss, who I think that's Randall. Are you Christopher? I think that's my buddy Christopher Voss. Says this interview has been life-changing. Thank you. And Pamela Aubrey, who you guys know, she loves you and adores you. Such a great question. This is what we should be teaching in school. Randall Voss says, got it, audio and hardcover. It is Christopher. Sylvia says, I have been conditioned not to ask since I was a little girl, but I started to ask these past 3 days. It feels so awkward, but it's still fun. One of the questions important for me is, what am I good in? What am I good in? What am I good at? What am I good in? What I think is what she means there.
Yeah.
So she's reading your book. She's reading the book. She just started reading it.
Well, I love what she just said. Thanks, you guys. Wonderful comments. I'm so happy to have you guys here. And, no matter where we are in our lives, even when we've started accomplishing things, we human beings are here to evolve. That is why we're here. It is like the university of life. So we still need to keep going. We still want more. We're never going to be like, oh, okay, I'm just fine with this. There's always this inner yearning, I think, as this, because we're really spiritual beings having this, earthly experience. So there's always this desire to press ahead and discover more. And so the asking journey is a journey of discovery. So yeah, I want everybody to really embrace that and have fun with it. And what Sylvia was saying, so many of us were shut down as kids. We say that, kids are born as these perfect little uncorrupted askers. We come into this world wanting to know everything, like who, what, when, where, why, how. Yeah. And we also, aren't afraid to ask for more. And we pretty much aren't afraid to ask for anything. And then depending on how we were parented or what happened at school, sit down. I'm so tired of your questions. Stop asking me so much, or don't ask unless you're called on. Be quiet, or your value's not valued. Your opinion's not valued at work, your job, military, whatever it is you've done. So then suddenly we grow up. We start off so beautiful, so uncorrupted, so wildly curious about life, and then we're standing there as adults being like, I'm terrified to ask anyone for anything. There's the perfect guy for me to connect with for my business. He's got all these. I'm so scared. I'll do it next time, and we walk away from these opportunities, or we're just sort of ashamed that we don't somehow already have all the answers. Like, I can't let him know that I'm so ignorant, so uninformed. Right. And it's sad. It's so sad because there's no way any of us will have all the answers. So this journey is really about being comfortable, becoming curious again, like we were as children, wondering about everything, asking about everything, because that's the naivete part in the roadblocks. We start to think, okay, I already know everything, so I'm not gonna look at that person. I'm not gonna get to know that person. I'm not, And I tell this story in the book about Melda and the mangoes. She was this beautiful Filipino woman who worked for us when our kids were very little. My babies were 16 months apart, and she'd come every day and cook these amazing, dishes from her homeland. And one day she shows up and with this fruit, and she cuts it up on a plate. She goes, "Crystal, try this." And I bit into this juicy orange fruit, and I'm like, "Wow, what is this, Melda? This is so good. This is seriously the best fruit I've ever tasted." She goes, "It's a mango." And I was like, wow, a mango. I mean, I'd heard about mangoes, but I'm like, where did you get it? Thinking, she must have imported it from the Philippines. She goes, "I got it at the grocery store." And I'm like, seriously? This is at the grocery store? I've been passing this by every day at the grocery store. Why am I so naive? I realized I'm naive. I was a girl who grew up in Idaho where there are lots of potatoes, but no mangoes. And, it made me think like, what else am I missing every day just because I'm naive? We're all naive, you guys. We only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And when we're not curious, when we don't have that beautiful, childlike, curiosity, like wonder, you could be walking by the most important person, advocate in your life, best friend, whatever, because, you've never seen a person like that, or, you just, whatever, you just walk by. So it's all about kind of stepping back into that. That's the part of the asking journey, stepping back into that state of wonder, connecting with people more, connecting with opportunities, wondering about what's out there for you.
I'm sitting here thinking about that. Like, you and I, we're all connected. We talk on the phone a lot. Yeah. Mark and I talk more than Crystal and I. Yeah. But I was playing golf yesterday and had my little girl with me on the golf cart. She wanted to ride along, and so there were this father and son that I was playing golf with, and that they partnered us up. And I look at my phone and I missed a call from Mark Victor Hansen, and I was thinking, man, if I told them I just missed a phone call from the #1 best-selling author of all time, they wouldn't believe me.
I wouldn't believe. I want to go. Thank you.
That's
Thank you
so
for that.
funny.
I want to go back to Sylvia's question one other way. Crystal, I love her answer, but I'm going to add one more part. We've introduced you to our dear friend who I've never physically met her any more than we met you, is Mitzi Perdue.
Yeah.
I mean, long ago, our friend Brad Rotter is in Dubai and says, I want to introduce you to your new best friend. I said, Bradley, that's you. Why are you introducing me to somebody else? You got to meet Mitzi. She's wonderful. Anyhow, for those of you that don't know, you've eaten her chicken probably. It's organic, 22 million chickens a week, Purdue Chicken does.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. She reads our book, Ask, and she says, it changed my life. And I'm almost 80 years old, and it totally changed my life because I am a writer. I've written 4,000 major articles of 13 different books. She wrote one book with us called How to Be Up and Down Times. But she said, I was afraid to go to Psychology Today magazine. And she calls up the head of Psychology Today magazine, who she never met. And she now is a feature writer for Psychology Today magazine. Her articles are read by 10 million. I got to get 10 million people a month. It's just amazing what can happen if you learn to ask. And so what am I saying? A couple bottom lines in that. I'll unwrap it. Number one, doesn't matter your chronology. You can be young or old. We've got a 9-year-old that we've just helped start Kid Entrepreneur, because we want every kid to be an entrepreneur, because we think the economy is in trouble. And the only way there is a GDP, a gross domestic product, is if somebody creates some service or product and sells it. And this little kid comes to me and says, Mark, can I interview you and Crystal? I said, absolutely. I started at 9 years old, so sweet. His name's Luke View. He does LukeView.com. I said, Luke, I'm in. And not only am I in, but I can get my friend Ken Walls. I can twist his arm. He'll come on. I know he'll resist, but he'll be nice.
Yeah. I already have a meeting with his father tomorrow or Wednesday, I think. Yeah. They're amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So what am I saying? It doesn't matter whether you're 9 or 90. You've still got a contribution to make. And what we're saying in this book, more than any other book ever on it, is you have a destiny. If you're alive, you got a destiny. It's not fulfilled. And all we want to do is wake you up to your destiny, to the wonder that's in front of you.
That's amazing. I really, first off, I just love both of you. You're amazing. I mean, I wish I could tell everything that we've talked about. I can't. But you two are honestly, I think you both stepped off of the right hand of God into this world. God allowed you both to have your butts kicked bad by life for a while. And I truly believe that that's all of us if we learn how to ask. If we learn how to ask, our destinies can become unlimited. There's unlimited abundance. And I think that this book is a game changer. Sylvia just said, that's why I could hear your voice, Crystal, when reading the book. The book vibrates your heart. It feels amazing.
Sylvia, I love you. I appreciate that so much, because you guys, what Sylvia is saying is right, spot on. Like, we all are an energetic vibration, every one of you. And I think people look at themselves as so much less than they really are. Yeah. We all have that ability to touch people in so many ways. You don't have to be a prince or a king or a queen. You can touch lives every single day. You can be a janitor and touch lives profoundly. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters the spirit with which you go out and do it, and staying in that curiosity, that wonder, being that master asker is what makes all the difference.
Tell what Kelly's gender.
What was that?
We got a daughter who teaches special ed and is great. In the first year she was doing this, she had 15 kids in the morning, 15 in the afternoon. She started asking herself, can I do an assessment on these kids? And she found 4 in each class that were way above average. They're Asperger's positive rather than Asperger's negative, but people who don't know how to read it and how to monitor it. And she did it. And then she has this great janitor at her school that just says, can't ask enough. It says, Miss Kelly, is there anything I can do to help you and help the kids? And every one of the 30 kids fall in love with the janitor because he's really a good guy. He's always putting up signs. And so she brings them cups of coffee, and the people are bringing him donuts, and the parents are bringing him stuff because they go, wow, the janitor's doing, he asked himself the question that Martin Luther King asked, how do I become great? And all of us can serve greatly, and that's how we can become great, is what Dr. Martin Luther King taught and learned.
Right. And I really believe, like what Mark's saying, the more, when we give the best of ourselves, we just invite prosperity in. Like it's not just coffee and donuts. That janitor, he gets like the biggest like gift cards and all this stuff. So like he's not doing it to get things, but he's so prosperous. He gets great dinners out and gift cards to stores and things like that. It's just a bond of love by giving of yourself greatly and then being able to receive that prosperity and love back. That's really what it's all about.
I for one am going to I'm going to buy 5 copies of your book today, and I'm going to start handing them out. And I would encourage everyone, I have become I'm very, very grateful for where I am. And it's because I've given a lot, and I buy multiple copies of great books, and I hand them out and I give them away for free. I ship them to people all over the world. I would encourage each and every one of you watching to click the link below, go buy 5 copies, buy 3 copies, buy 10 copies, but buy a bunch of copies of this book to give out to people that people you love, and people that get stuck in your crawl, so to speak. give them a copy of the book, because I truly believe that the way that we transform the world is through love. And a big part of love is learning how to give and give without expectation. And it always comes back. So I'm encouraging everybody to grab multiple copies.
Right.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate you and we appreciate all of you.
And the benefit of giving away books is sort of amazing. Somebody gave Abe Lincoln a book, and he read the one book. And as a result, it was Uncle Tom's Cabin. And that one book changed his mind. And he wrote up that night the Emancipation Proclamation, which has freed America from slavery and freed it from all the disintegration of being locked and chained and servileness and loneliness, living with cattle and the swine and all that, and freed people up. And that's why reading causes freedom. And what Crystal said in the beginning of the show, and some of you are probably coming on later, is that you say, well, wait a second, you're writing a book that's so simple, everybody knows how to ask. No, they don't. Our research shows not only the research we personally did, but all the university studies and 26 superstars we interviewed. Most people are afraid to ask. Yeah. They think they're supposed to know. They think it'd be arrogant if they ask. If they ask somebody that does know, they'll be upset with them. Just the opposite. What we find out that it works in your favor to be a master asker. It works in your favor if you're single and dating. If you ask questions during a date about the other person, likelihood, according to Harvard research, if you get a second date is twice as much. So it behooves you to learn how to ask. There's been no classes in high school, no classes at church, temple, synagogue, ashram, or mosque. Nobody sits down with their buddy and says, teach me how to ask. Now, with the one exception in my case, I asked Chip Collins, teach me what to ask. And when I went out to sell my first seminars, he said, when you're closing, just say to that guy, remember, this is 1974, do you want to cut the check or have your secretary cut it? And then the guy laughed. Said, well, I'm a big guy. I can cut the check. And I got paid a lot with that one good question.
Wow. That's so incredible. You two are amazing. And if you guys are not convinced of that by now, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah, I mean, honestly, this book is a game changer. Everybody watching, go grab a copy, grab multiple copies of the book and give it away to people that you love. And like I said earlier, give it to those that you don't love.
Exactly, Ken.
That need it. You know that there's a lot of people that need it. So, Mark and Crystal, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on today to Amazon, sharing your wisdom, sharing your pain and your truth. And if everybody watching needs to understand that we all go through the crap, we do. And this book is going to teach you, no matter where you are. Mitzi Perdue, she doesn't need to learn. I mean, she does, but she's doing okay.
Right.
She's doing okay. And here she read your book and it changed her life. And you know, so I think they did $6 billion a year in business or something like that in the chicken business. So, you know, I mean, it's an amazing book. Everybody go get multiple copies of the book and share it with the people that you love. And Sylvia says, thank you, Ken, for this amazing interview. You have great charisma. Thank you, Sylvia. I'm so do the people who surround me. So Pam is talking great stuff about you, Crystal. She says she's going to be getting a few more herself. She knows a few people that she wants to share the book with. And Christopher Voss says this was amazing. Thank you to all of us. So thank you all for watching. Yes. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for going out and getting copies of the book, and just keep sharing this. It's amazing. And I'm going to have you guys come back on tomorrow too. So we'll talk.
Sounds good, Ken.
Tomorrow.
We'll be back.
Yeah.
We'll be back. We look forward to it. All right.
Hang
Until
tight.
then, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.